Beyond.
Wow, that was just crap.
Well, we didn't do it last week.
Crap across the board.
Unbelievable.
We need to have band practice more often. We're all out of tune. Hey, everybody, welcome to Podcast Beyond. This is episode 484.
It's a palindrome,
my
Max.
reading glasses for it. It's a palindrome like every 10 episodes. Anyway,
time.
I'm Max Scoville. I'm joined by Alanah Pierce.
Hi.
Brian Altano.
Hey.
And Marty Sleva.
Whoa.
This is a program where we talk about computer games on the PlayStation device. That's it. Anyway, you guys went to PAX this weekend. How was that? What happened? We didn't go. What? You want to do it? I don't want to do it. You can do it. Go nuts.
PAX was great. It was very cold. There's people who right now can't even fly out of Boston because they're just having so much snow there right now. So we managed to avoid that. But in terms of the actual show floor, it was hectic. It was crazy. We did so much stuff. We played some really cool upcoming games like What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of different Annapurna games. I'm not familiar with the company.
Yeah. So Annapurna, which is a film production company started by Megan Ellis, and they've sort of produced and distributed movies like Zero Dark 30 and Her and Spring Breakers and Lawless. And so it's these...
That's like the four most disparate movies.
I mean, that's the thing, is that the movies don't have anything in common except for the fact that they're risky, they're sort of filmed by auteurs, and generally they're heralded come Oscar season.
Yeah.
And so they're sort of taking that same mentality and putting it towards games. They've announced that the first 4 games are going to be What Remains of Edith Finch, which is coming out later on in April, and it's from Giant Sparrow, who did The Unfinished Swan, obviously on PS3. And then Gorago, which has been this sort of indie perspective puzzle game that has been shopped around at like GDC forever.
Oh, is that the one that looks like a pop-up book kind of?
Yep,
Okay, I've played like an early build of that.
I mean, I feel like I played that at GDC years ago. And then there's Donut County, which is this awesome sort of Katamari Damacy type game. And then the final one was a new game.
I think I remember now. It's The Artful Escape of Francis Vendetti. It took us a really long time to
we
remember
tried to do a bunch of convos on that, and it was just very difficult. So
that is one of the best games I have ever demoed on a show floor.
I completely agree. And that was I was texting these guys afterwards that like it's a game that like no assets are out for it, so it sucks because like unless you were there playing it, you can't see what it was like.
It was announced that day, right?
Yeah, it was announced there. Yeah.
So this is awesome though. Like I've always loved hearing about a game before there's anything to go on. Like the first time someone told me about Katamari, and the only thing I had to go on was what they described in my head, and I was just piecing it together. And then seeing the actual thing, it was totally different from what I imagined.
Yeah.
But you were telling me like, can you give us like the elevator pitch or the very long elevator ride pitch?
Yeah, I mean it's ultimately like at its core, it's a 2D platformer. But its thing is, it feels like you're just like entrenched in a 70s prog rock / David Bowie album with this like colorful neon.
Also Miyazaki, like it really feels like this Ghibli movie monsters in it everyone just plays guitar, and you have this glowing guitar that you can use to platform. If you double jump and you keep tapping A, you'll do like a guitar solo kind of.
Yeah, and it'll cause you to sort of like drift downward.
What are the graphics like? Is it cell shaded or pixel
it looks a little bit like Broken Age.
Yeah.
Like the characters look like Broken Age characters, but the backgrounds are like pink, purple, these vibrant, like sort of like weird neon, like a neon nightmare. And
what
like
we played was really snowy, and all of the snow is just glistening constantly,
Yeah.
and there's just everything in the background is just beautiful, and you just kind of snowboard at one part past this giant planet, and he's like, huh, that's dope.
Yeah.
Like it literally has just a little dialogue.
When I played it, I walked past like through this clearing, and then I had a lot of these moments like in Journey when you're sliding down. There's the one part where you're sliding down the sand, and then the camera sort of goes to the side, and you can see the sun setting through the ruins in the background. It's that like I described it as like a moment of awe.
Right.
And I got those like 3 or 4 times in this where you would see this giant planet or this like space whale with a casino on its back just sort of making its way through the background, and it's just unlike.
Well, you shouldn't throw your casinos away in the ocean because they get
on the
lodged on whales.
It's like if Child of Eden or a game like that were a 2D side-scrolling platformer. Wow. It's just so much cool visual stuff.
Yeah, and then you would get into these sort of like rock battles with these creatures where there's this like Cthulhu-esque old god who is sort of like throwing musical notes at you, and you have to do sort of like very simple Simon Says memory, but then I don't know, it's just very strange and cool.
Oh,
So
also, we should mention there was an amp there while we were playing.
Yeah, it was the craziest sound.
Yeah, so because it's so sound-based and you're literally like just jamming out on this guitar the whole time, the guy who was showing us the game had an amp set up right in front of us so that the sound was like doubly as loud. It was so cool.
Maybe that's the key to like a really good demo. They're just blasting you with a wall of sound.
It worked.
a good amp blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really great. And then Edith Finch, which I think a couple of us have played and talked about, and that's
You and I put it at PSX.
yeah. And this was the same demo you got to play. What did you think of it?
Oh, I really liked it. The world is so detailed. I was really thrown because I expected it to be more complicated than it was. So there are a lot of things where I was like, I don't know what to do here, especially having come from just finishing like Virginia.
Yeah.
There was so many things that I didn't know how to interact with, but I realized it's just like anything you can interact with has a little circle in it. I was way over.
And then if you need to duck in an area, you just keep walking forward.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know how to duck, but it auto ducks. So it was like I was totally overthinking it. And I think it's a really observational game where you're just supposed to be learning things as you go, and it's not told through dialogue. And I really like that kind of stuff.
It's visually much more cluttered than it is logically.
Yeah.
Like when you're going to solve
Absolutely.
puzzles, you're like, I'm overthinking this because this feels like I'm in a real house. And it's like, where are my keys? I better look everywhere. And it's like, well, it's a video game. They can only be in like one of 3 places.
Yeah.
But I really love the art direction. I really appreciate how morbid it is.
Yeah, it really is.
It's sort of triumphantly
I effectively killed a child.
morbid. Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
At its core, you are exploring this giant sort of Winchester mystery house that generations of this family have lived in, the Finch house, the Finch family. And you come across their rooms that are sort of, they're kept like a museum's kept, where you put like a velvet rope over like the Lincoln bedroom. And so you don't go in there because that's where Lincoln slept. And so you're exploring the house and you sort of find these journal entries, and you put yourself in the shoes of these people from the past and how they died. But the way they die is all magical realism. It's like very much entrenched in like Gabriel Garcia Bernal. Like someone will transform into an animal, or a kid will want to go all the way
fly.
around. Yeah. And it's like, well, obviously they died because they couldn't fly, but they do in the dream. They fly. And so
Was this the one that has the swing set that we
Yes.
saw? Okay.
Yeah.
I keep getting this mixed up with that other the name is I don't know. I can't imagine how I would get these indie games mixed up when we have What Remains of Edith Finch, The Artful Escape of Francis Vendetti in the same paragraph.
yeah. And that one's coming out very soon. We'll have more on that in a little bit later.
That's
and then,
a PS4 exclusive as well, right?
PC as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but console exclusive. And then Donut County, which is
cool.
really cool. It's by Ben Esposito, who is one of the artists on the Unfinished Swan.
Doesn't look anything like it though.
No. It looks like it's a very cartoony game set in the American Southwest, where you control a sinkhole that, like Katamari, the more you can swallow up anything that's smaller than you, and every time you swallow up something, you get a little bit bigger. And so it's like Katamari, where you get this constant sensation of consumption, which is weird because like I don't like things. I don't own things. I don't buy physical things anymore. But like there's something so satisfying about continually growing and consuming.
Absolutely. We both said the same thing totally separately as soon as we finished playing, where something about eating like just a couple of blades of grass and then growing and growing and growing to getting a house is just like really calming.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect it to be, but it totally is.
Yeah. Well, it's that weird kind of like just it's not the same thing as like collecting. It's the same thing
I think
as
it's decluttering actually.
Yeah,
I think
it's the
that's
same.
what it
It's the
is.
same sensation of like smashing pots or grass in Zelda, right? Like it's just kind of you're getting rid of this stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
getting rid of the stuff that you don't necessarily need, and
So it's not got to catch them all. It's
like
like
getting-
suck them all into a vacuum.
gotta clean it all.
Buying stuff is cathartic, but getting rid of stuff is probably equally, or if not more so, cathartic.
It's true.
To just sort of just be like, I don't need that jacket anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
It also has
getting rid of it.
really cute animations and really cute characters too.
Well, the interesting thing is that you suck up things in the sinkhole, and every once in a while the camera will zoom into the sinkhole, and society has reformed down there. Like no one died. They're just like, oh dang, we're in a sinkhole now, and so like we're gonna grill hot dogs around this campfire and talk about how we miss being up there.
Yeah.
and
It
they
sounds
all
like an indie game.
Yeah.
yeah, they all tell their stories about how they was sucked into the sinkhole, and it's super.
You're gonna like this because everyone is blaming it on raccoons. Like everyone down there is sitting around a campfire, like it was those raccoons, wasn't it?
I think that's how someone sold it to me initially. I saw this at like the indie mix we did here ages ago.
Yeah, and I loved that they were like, "Jesus, it was this raccoon's fault, right?" And I'm like, "What raccoons are you
the
talking
weird
about?"
part with the snakes and there are dogs in it, so I'm a big fan.
Yeah, snakes and dogs.
It's really cute. It's super well animated, and I can't remember why now, but I loved the sound. You know, when I walked out of it, and I was like, the sound of this
was really good.
is awesome.
Yeah, so yeah,
Really cool
bunch of cool. I feel like these very much feel in the spirit of that era of PS3 when we were getting stuff like Journey and Child of Eden. No, not Child of Eden. Child of Light, Unfinished Swan. Like
I miss
some of
UB
those, like,
Arts, man.
prestige-
I wish they'd still make stuff.
Yeah.
Child of Light was a really good game.
Yeah, cool stuff.
Awesome. So speaking of little small indie franchises, there's an up and coming studio called BioWare that has a little art house title called Mass Effect Andromeda. It's on its way. I'm
What
kidding.
became of Commander Shepard?
Yeah. We don't speak of that. It was a dark time. Well, it was a kind of a red, greenish, bluish time. But anyway, yeah, Andromeda, you guys got to check out Horde mode?
Yeah, so
What's up with that?
We have to play the multiplayer. We can't say we got yelled at when we called it Horde mode.
Okay.
Even though
Oops.
it's
Sorry.
No, it's Horde mode.
I mean, it absolutely is. It was funny. We were like, what is the name of this mode? They were like, oh, it's Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer. We were like, oh, it doesn't have like an official title.
Oh, like this is just
like,
the multiplayer. Yeah.
Okay.
Is this like when Nintendo's like, Donkey Kong is not a gorilla, he's a Kong? You're like, he's a gorilla too.
Kind
Get it together over there.
But it's just there's no PvP in this game. There's no
Got it.
PvP multiplayer. It's all
Wave-based.
Yeah, wave-based cooperative. We were on a 4-person team.
Yeah. We couldn't get clarification on how many people you actually could have on a
Yeah.
team, but I kind of feel like it's going to stay at 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we got up to, I think, wave 7, and it's super fun. I mean, the jetpack makes this incredibly fun, and the modes are a lot more vertical than they are in Gears of War or Halo or even in Mass Effect 3 because of the jetpack.
Ooh.
So if you need to get away from something, you just jump away or you
Yeah.
strafe, and that really changes the way that everything feels. It also kind of gives you a safety net if you're up somewhere really high and you're up against a bunch of people and all of your squad mates are elsewhere. You really feel like you can get away,
Yeah.
and you don't let the whole team down by dying on a platform no one can get
Right.
to, which
Yeah,
I really like the flexibility
It
of
was
that.
cool, and a lot of things are sort of species-based and class-based. Like you
Yep.
played as a Krogan Sentinel?
Friggin' Vanguard.
Krogan Vanguard.
You
I
were
was
an
an Asari
Asari
Sentinel. Yeah. And so you had these like awesome like run in, jump, and ground pound. Like,
Yeah.
you could just like totally clear an area.
Yeah,
Like,
my favorite thing to do was I would do a kind of charge attack and knock someone back and then do a ground pound, and most enemies would die just by me doing those two things. And because I didn't have very heavy weapons, my recharge rate was at 100%. So it's based on how heavy the gear that you have is on, depends on. So basically, we started with different loadouts. You had a recharge rate of 5%, meaning from the get-go, you had to have a different playstyle to me and that you couldn't focus on powers and instead
I had
had
to focus on the weapon.
shooting.
So it's like there's like you build a loadout, and instead of you can be over encumbered, but instead of that meaning you move slower, all it means is that you recharge your abilities slower.
Yeah.
So you're still the same speed, but it's just
that's
like
cool.
you have better weapons, but that means you can't utilize your abilities as much.
Okay, so on the subject of weapons, Alanah, you did like a preview for this or something. This is something they've worked on a lot for Andromeda. They've really tightened up the shooting, right?
Oh yeah, I think as an action game, like it plays great.
Okay.
From what I have played, I'm super satisfied.
Like I remember before everyone got mad at the ending, back before the game was out, like ME3's big like bone of contention was the fact that they added a multiplayer mode to this, historically single player RPG experience, and it was like that was kind of odd because it always sort of felt half baked. Like they had a beta for it and everything.
people
and
said it
was-
felt tacked on.
Yeah, and it was fine. It was just like this isn't the selling point of the game. Like to add on like a shooting component.
I
but-
still feel that way in that I
Really?
think this multiplayer mode is totally solid, but it doesn't really exist in partnership with the main campaign.
Right.
Where I feel like in other games that have more Horde modes, it kind of does.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Nothing about the main campaign is similar to this, really. But I mean, there are microtransactions. It's
good.
definitely a great way for them to make money.
Nice.
I mean, I think this might find actually like a small but really vocal home on PS4, especially because Horde mode or multiplayer cooperative things like this are pretty prevalent in Microsoft's big franchises, like we mentioned Halo and Gears. But whereas on PlayStation, like Uncharted got that co-op mode.
Like Killzone had something kind of similar.
Like, no one touched that. Like,
Well, Uncharted had that entire multiplayer mode, which again, microtransactions for it, and people were getting into it, but it's a very small. I mean, it's the same kind of thing, right? It's a
Whereas,
very
like,
small
for
group of
Gears and
people.
Halo, they are like core pillars of the game. Whereas for Uncharted and this, it sort of feels like, and also this.
That's exactly what it is, but I also don't think that makes it bad.
don't think it makes it
I
bad
think it's
at
a
all.
strong
Yeah.
mode. It was fun for us to
Yeah.
play. It's so hard not to compare it to like other games that are like that. I've been doing it for quite a bit longer, but
I think the
solid.
issue is when a single player game doesn't entirely deliver on all the fronts people expect it to. People start targeting the multiplayer, being like, "Oh, the company they focused resources on this instead of this." It doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
That was made by a team in a different country. Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that with a kind of sort of tacked on multiplayer, it almost feels like when a car has like all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, and it's like in reality, people are probably mostly going to be driving it on like normal road conditions.
Yep.
But it's this kind of like peace of mind of like it's got that thing there that I paid a little bit of extra for, and you feel like you got your money's worth. And it's like I don't know. There's
as long as the single player campaign is still strong, I think it's a good thing. I mean, there are people who will want to play it this way, and I definitely have no complaints about it being there. It was totally fun. I imagine I actually will play it when the game comes out.
Do you feel like this game as a whole is going to deliver?
I have no idea.
Really?
It's like people are getting review copies now, I think, and I'm
Yeah.
so interested to see how the reaction is because I've spoken about this before, but what I played, the single player preview build was buggy as hell, and I didn't like a lot of the dialogue, but I think the gameplay is just dramatically better, leagues better. It's like I really don't know what to expect right now. I want it to be amazing.
Well, it's one of those situations where even if they improve the gameplay dramatically, if the story and the way the narrative unfolds is not up to snuff.
No, I'm trying to take account for my own bias on that, and then I love Mass Effect for the story and for the world building, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game if it has less of that and more action.
Sure.
So I'm trying to like
I feel like that's why everyone plays it. That's like that's the strong point.
But I mean, it's like me tying it to an original trilogy that I want it to be the same as, and that's not necessarily fair. I think like it can be something else and still be good. So
you think it'll feel more like Episode 1 or Force Awakens?
I feel like it's going to be probably more akin to Force Awakens.
I would think so too. Like,
I mean, I don't think this game is going to be a disaster by any means.
Right.
no, yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people love the prequels.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think this is going to be kind of a Dragon Age Inquisition type of thing. Where
They'll write in.
obviously, it's running on a new engine. It's got familiar elements from the previous trilogy, but it's also like, hey, we're on a new console generation. You know, this is a starting out point for people.
Yeah.
The difference is like with Dragon Age, it kind of was like a kind of a spotty trilogy, whereas Mass Effect,
such a good
in spite of its
really.
complaints, it is like a cohesive trilogy. It's a start to finish. And
Yeah.
Well, they're bringing baggage no matter what they do, right? I mean, they're kind of damned if they do. If they distance themselves from what worked, and story-wise, they get away from all of that, which it seems like they're doing in terms of narrative, or they stay too close to it. I mean, you're gonna piss off people. You have to build a bridge to a new generation of people.
That's why I feel like it's on me or on us to make that distance, right? It's on me to be like, I should not be expecting this to be the same as it was. And it was like, playing the opening parts of the game, the first thing that hit me was that it's really expositional. So there's like people who are like, this happened and this happened and this happened. And then a news report tells you that the same thing happened. And I was like, oh no, please don't like feed me the story this hard. I want to figure it out slowly by myself.
Right.
But then that's just because I had that expectation that it would be like Mass Effect 1, which I love. And it doesn't have to be that. It can be still have that Mass Effect flavor, which it totally does. I think the alien races are really interesting. I think the worlds are absolutely beautiful, and I want to explore them more than I wanted to explore any of the worlds in Mass Effect 1, for example.
calling them worlds is very,
the rocks, the variety of different colored rocks.
Yeah, there's an orange, there's a beige, a brown.
Yeah, I think going
entire
in
spectrum of hallways.
going in with sort of expectations is very important for stuff like this, because the franchises like this are going to keep going for a very long time, especially ones owned by EA or companies like them. And if you go in with the expectation that this might be a continuation of the lineage of what you played before, like maybe curb that a
Exactly.
little bit.
It's a totally different team.
But also, this has been a year of beloved franchises completely destroying the mold and delivering us new exciting
that's
things
true.
with Resident Evil and Zelda.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
We've had that already, which I think is really cool. And then also these new IP, which have been incredible, like Horizon and Neo and even Yakuza going back to the.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like there was a point where Japanese publishers and developers were putting out stuff in these big beloved franchises that was playing it way too safe or trying to cater to something a demographic wanted that wasn't really nobody really wanted it. But between Yakuza and Zelda and Final Fantasy and Metal Gear Solid 5, here are these things that Resident Evil, all these things that have like an existing
Neo.
Well, Neo's brand new out of the gate, but like things that are just very like it's a familiar concept, but kind of throwing the entire screw the drawing board, like knock it over, get new drawing board, start fresh.
It's a really good point, and it's definitely of what I played in Mass Effect, it's definitely not stale, and that's absolutely to its credit.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see EA or Activision try things that are a little bit riskier, which they're not known to do. They're iterative.
I think in terms of the big franchises, I think Battlefield 1 was close to that.
Yeah, totally.
Was risky. Well, even just going back to the drawing board in terms of one of the two great wars, and then even just presenting the story as a series of vignettes and sort of
totally different.
Throwing away the future weapons, which every game has done for the last decade.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're going to go back to basics.
Yeah, you got live pigeons.
It's very odd to look at this year and be like, some of my favorite games this year were made in Japan and Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Those are the ones.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Yeah, I also I played the first hour. I want to play a lot more of Nier Automata.
Yeah.
Which is, that game is insane. That game opens with, it's a shmup. The first level is a vertical scrolling shmup.
Really?
Yeah. It's a
really
bullet hell.
cool.
And I'm like, this is what's happening here?
Yeah, that's
really
kinda,
cool.
that's
And then it
kinda
turns
the
into a
vibe I'm getting from
platformer.
that,
I'm like, where did this come from? And then it's just like a Bayonetta style action
Did you
game.
play Neo?
Have I played Nier?
Yeah.
The first one?
Yeah.
I played a little bit of it. I barely remember it.
Also a super weird game.
Yeah.
But very good game.
Yeah, that's that creator who always wears that weird head. That's not his
Yes.
head. Yeah, it's a paper mache head.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to check that game out.
Moon Man, they call
he's
him.
the-
Yeah.
Call him all Kroger
Nowhere.
face.
Don't call him that. All right, so PS Now is a thing we talk about once every year and a half, pretty much. That's their streaming service. Sony is bringing PlayStation 4 games to PC using PS Now, which is kind of a huge, odd sort of move, but makes a ton of sense. That is obviously in, responding to Microsoft having everything available on Windows and Xbox One.
Yep.
And to Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which that's an interesting thing, is because PS Now as of right now hasn't, they've pretty much been like, here's a bunch of PS3 games you could do, but they haven't really looked that far backwards or forwards.
Yeah.
So it's interesting if people are going to be able to maybe pick up a PS4 or have a PC and be like, hey, I want to jump into this library, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can play The Order and Infamous and and Bloodborne, and sort of catch up on some of those like good and interesting games from the first couple of years of the PS4 Until Dawn, like things that sort of get forgotten about now that we have Horizon and Uncharted, and looking forward to.
I think at the very least too, if there's a bunch of these games you've been wanting to play for a long time, you don't want to drop a couple $100 on a PS4 and even a TV.
Yeah.
Spending $20 in a month and flying through, Uncharted 4 and The Order and even getting a third of the way through Bloodborne before you rage quit.
Yep.
Yeah.
The latency probably isn't the best for that game.
Yeah, so that's my thing. Like, I experience like minor technical hiccups when it comes to streaming stuff through PS Now, and that was like PS3 games. So I hope this is up to snuff. This is kind of like building on the vision that they promised years and years ago when they started saying like, this is the future of video games. Like, I mean, there were hints years ago from top Sony people saying, we don't even know like if the PlayStation 5 will be a video game console. Like, it might not even be an actual box that you have. It might just
be like a Sega TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be there's one console and it's in Japan and everything gets beamed to us here.
What's interesting here is that in spite of this being totally cloud-based, Sony is dropping hardware support on PS3, Vita, and TV. So this is only on PS4 and PC.
Which maybe that's going to help performance issues, because instead of being like, well, we need this to be able to run across everything, including literally a television and a PS3 and a Vita, which are obviously way underpowered, just being like, hey, if your PC is up to snuff and if you have a PS4, we're gonna make sure it runs good on that.
Yeah.
It's also still not available in Australia and a bunch of different parts of Europe. So there's obviously some gaps they need to fill. But the thing I'm wondering is do they just launch this for PS4 and then we have all of the games at once? Surely not.
So
right?
no, that's the thing. Like they sort of piecemeal it out in the same way like Netflix has movies or Nintendo does its virtual console stuff. They keep you little by little because they want you to keep resubscribing every single month. And that was always my biggest problem with the service was like I'd be like, I want to play like this series of games, and there would only be the first and the third one on there, or there'd be just a handful. Like you'd go to Capcom's category, and there'd be like a couple of Mega Man games, but not all the PlayStation Mega Man games. A couple Resident Evils here and there. So it's very odd, and it's also like these are sort of at odds with the fact that you could play a game like Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 through this service, or Uncharted or Resident Evil 4, or you could play like the HD remasters of these games that were also available elsewhere. And you're like, yeah, like I'm playing these games, but it's also like watching a movie on VHS at this point when there's like Blu-rays out there, and 4K transfers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we had Phil Spencer on Unlocked the other week, and he was talking about how for Game Pass, like it is like third-party games are more complicated because it's a licensing issue.
Right.
Like that's not like for first-party games you can put up whatever you want they belong to you, but for like putting up Ubisoft's lineup or putting up Phantom Pain, it's like, well, you have to have those discussions. Like, well, this wasn't in our initial agreement, so what does Konami get out of this? What does Capcom get out of this?
Totally. And I think that like it's a space everybody wants to exist in and play in now, right? Like everybody has their own streaming service and their own app, and they realize that they can't do it on their own. Like you have to play together with friends for that. You have to call up other companies. You have to make licensing deals. You have to pay for those deals and then watch them disappear when they don't turn out to be good. And Sony specifically has been trying to tie their hardware to their streaming services for a very long time now. And they always, at least to me, have had a massive sort of communication problem between the way all of their hardware interacts. We just saw that with the 4K TVs and PSVR. Between the Vita and the PS4, like it's just close enough to work.
When the Vita and the Xperia play. In this case, it's not even in hardware. It's communication between PS Now and PlayStation Plus. Like, where does that interact? Do you get like a discount on it, or I don't know.
We even had those PlayStation TVs a couple years ago that had like I believe they had like a disc drive on the side of it. It was basically
Goldfarb has one in,
yeah.
in his room. Yeah.
It's odd. It's a TV. It's a TV that looks kind of like a giant PSP Go screen.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant literally a PS TV.
No. These are
no.
Like an actual PlayStation television.
That was the one that had the two-player 3D.
This illustrates how confusing this is, right? They were just incredibly expensive. So I think that like we're watching this come together very slowly, and one day we'll get to a point where we can just like you can just turn on your Samsung TV and start renting PS4 games. You won't even need a console.
Yeah,
but we're not there yet.
I mean, they've nailed some aspects of it with cross-buy and cross-save, especially
absolutely.
with indie games, like being able to get like Rogue Legacy or Journey or Flower or Flow or whatever, and have like, okay, this is available everywhere. Like, you have the PS3 copy, the PS4 copy, the Vita copy. You can start, stop, continue wherever you want, which that has been really good. But aside from that, like every step after that has sort of been a minor hiccup, which is what like Nintendo leaned fully into with the Switch, which we talked about last week, like how the Switch compares to like what a Vita, if there is a Vita successor, which I said I don't think there will be, what it can learn from the successes and failures of the Switch.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think that's like really interesting because we've said on the show dozens of times, like people don't really want to play full-fledged console games on the go.
I played Zelda so much on the flight.
Here we are.
I
so
played 70 hours handheld.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of figuring out the way those things communicate. That's why, I mean, I got really excited for the Nintendo Switch on behalf of the Vita too, because I think that like this is a resurrection for handheld gaming, and I hope Sony sees it. I hope the Switch sells amazingly well.
Then we'll get another Vita.
And we'll get another Vita.
Yeah.
Like that's great news. You know, handheld gaming rules.
Yeah.
Like I want to be able to play a console quality game on an airplane. That's cool.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
It's nuts. Anyway, we mentioned PlayStation Plus. That brings us to the Play Collective 2017 announced, which is of course the fun lineup of great new indie games. I love when they do this, when they just take a bunch of like it's like a supply drop. They're just like, hey, it's a bunch of games, one every week. And PlayStation Plus people get 20% off. Everything is coming out March 21st. That's the name of the game.
That's very confusing.
Which is that's a terrible
It's Double Fine is producing the game, and it's I was telling Dan earlier, I never say this, but I use the word game very loosely. It is sort of this.
Are you telling me that everything is not a game?
It is sort of
an experience.
Everything is an experience. It's a sort of sandbox toy box where you can dive down into the molecular level of anything in the world, and so you're a bunch of like amoeba and protons and neutrons. I have no idea what goes on in a body.
Amoeba are coming to PlayStation.
You're amoeba?
You can like fuss around in there, and then you can zoom out, and then all of a sudden you are a little like wisp going through the grass, and then you zoom out and you are a bunch of like dogs that are like rolling, and they're very cute. They're in a pack, and then you can zoom out and you become the trees that the dog piss on, and then you zoom out and you are the oceans that are surrounding the trees.
Basically,
you
I've
zoom
seen
out
YouTube
and you are the
videos like
planets.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like if Katamari got high.
It's like if Katamari got higher.
Katamari wasn't high.
Yeah, no, Katamari's just weird, man.
Katamari straight edge.
No way.
I could say for a fact Katamari's not straight edge.
I don't know what you mean by that, but anyway. Then of course there's Rain World. Is that the one with the cat slugs? Or am I dreaming that? What's Rain World?
I think you might be dreaming that. It's a very stylish 2D puzzle platformer that is sort of like, looks like sword and sorcery-ish, like pixely but elongated, artsy pixely.
Okay, I don't know what the hell I was thinking of. I think that might be just one of the cat slugs. That's March 28th. That's $20. Parappa the Rapper Remastered! Yes, April 4th.
You know what that is?
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to, have you played this yet?
Yeah, that was a demo out.
yeah.
We played it on 4K TVs at PSX, and it's so stupidly obnoxiously gorgeous for something that's just like
it sucks.
Paper dog.
Those HD drawings.
Yeah.
it's kind of amazing. Like it looks really good for something that's so whimsical and simplistic.
Cell shading ages well. That's just kind of a fact.
Yeah.
So that's the thing though, is they didn't really do much to the guts of the game. It's still Parappa the Rapper, which was like effectively the first rhythm game to come out stateside.
Yeah. I think I was talking about that with Zach, how we're a little bit worried because everyone views this game so highly through a nostalgic lens. Because it was awesome. It was awesome to play this on a PS1 when we were kids. But the rhythm genre has grown and matured so much in the last 20 years.
It also like spun back around and died.
It
had an entire life cycle. Since Parappa
and it's
was
tough.
born.
Like this game seems like tailor-made for touch.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just like tap on your phone or on a pad.
Yeah, I know someone in the office, I think it was Jose who played it, said that it was actually pretty hard to get everything timed correctly because it's not quite as on point as it is now, and we've grown accustomed to rhythm games being so precise.
Yeah.
Like things like sound shapes, Whereas this, in comparison, is supposed to be really hard to play. But I didn't play it when it first came out. I've never played it.
Play it, so you need to learn.
Well, I feel like I'm a really good test for that, right?
Sure.
Is I try
Does
it.
this hold up?
Yeah.
You have zero nostalgia for it.
I think you were 5 when it first came out.
What year did it come out?
97,
96, yeah, something
96.
like that, yeah.
It was 3.
Okay, wow, yeah.
You weren't playing games with rapping dogs who had to pee and get their license and
No, I mean it's
kiss a girl.
yeah, it's a weird game. Weird game.
I mean, I love the personality I've seen of it.
Yeah, like it's the kind of game where you can probably get more out of it if you just watch a Let's Play where somebody's getting it, where someone's
watch a friend play it.
rapping good the whole time. That's the thing is like I feel like modern rhythm games, they have like almost like a sliding scale of like, you know, how well you're doing. Whereas this one is like, you rapping great, good, awful, bad, or whatever. Or
That's how it is in the rap community.
It is.
Yeah, they're very strict.
It turns out Tupac Shakur told Biggie that he was rapping less than good.
Yes.
And that caused bullets to fly and Suge Knight.
That makes sense.
I don't know.
Suge
This,
Knight orchestrated.
I'm glad Prop is out of jail.
this is a tough one though, because
I dropped 20.
I would just as soon just buy this like a nice collector's edition like vinyl record for this than the actual game, because like I love the game, but you know, again, it's like it's not really fun to play. It's just a fun concept.
Yeah, but there's a Rasta Frog.
Yeah, I could also just watch the movie 8 Mile, which is pretty much the same thing, honestly, except he's not a dog, he's a rabbit. Cosmic Star Heroin is coming April 11th.
Speaking of drugs.
What is that?
Heroin with an E, heroine.
Heroin. Disgusting.
It is an old school sort of 1632-bit JRPG. Well, it's not J, but it is modeled after the JRPGs. It's an IRPG, an indie RPG, an Indian RPG from the country of India.
Sure? Are you sure?
No, it's not.
You made that up.
So
I was really intrigued.
Yeah.
You lied, and then you corrected yourself, and then you lied harder.
Yes.
Good. Great job, Marty.
That's what 2017 Mario's all about. New glasses, better lies.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
My brand.
Yeah. Full Throttle Remastered. Yes.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
That's awesome. Have you played the original?
Bits and pieces of it. That's one of those games that I think I got stuck on some puzzle or something, or it was like a pirated copy, and then I got a new computer. One of those things.
Bikers,
where it just
not
didn't.
pirates. I think you're thinking of a different game.
Yeah, Monkey Island. Anyway, but no, like I'm stoked to jump back onto this. Do we know if this is coming to Vita perchance, or?
I think this was the game where they said that there's one of these games has a Vita version in the works, but it's sort of MIA, which is a little worrisome.
Fandango didn't come to Vita.
It did.
It did?
Yeah, looks
That
great.
remaster was what, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, that was
Are these coming to iOS at all? I know Broken Age did, but
Broken Age did and Grim Fandango did.
Grim Fandango did late last year. So they probably will, but not at the same time.
Yeah,
do they actually have touch controls? Because that, like, I feel like point and click, like tapping a screen is about as streamlined as you can make.
Oh
that.
yeah, dude, playing Broken Age on iOS was great. It was just like, go there now, push this, interact like this. Yeah,
Yeah,
it feels
Grim
great.
Fandango is exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah, and Full Throttle, that was their last. Obviously, this is Tim Schafer back when he was at LucasArts. This was his last 2D adventure game before he jumped into Grim Fandango, obviously, as his swan song at the company. But
Nice.
I know this is Ryan McCaffrey's favorite.
And then finally, What Remains of Edith Finch is April 25th, so we don't have to wait too long to play that.
So excited.
That's awesome. So that's like, yeah.
That's like a good. This is like this sort of like carrying the spirit of how Xbox used to do the Summer of Arcade.
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah.
Stuff like Braid
totally
and
reminds me of
Limbo and Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet and Bastion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, that was a good couple of years. Winter of Arcade.
Winter of Arcade.
It was called the Winter of
Australia.
Arcade in Australia.
No.
As it came out, yeah, because there was
Really?
winter there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we brought up Summer Arcade, and she was like,
I was
"You
like,
didn't have that."
I was like, I played all those games. Why don't I remember the name Summer of Arcade? And I was like, oh, it's because it was Winter of Arcade. Amazing.
Yeah, what a weird planet.
Yeah.
Hemispheres,
shifts
how do they
this way
work?
A little bit
Very
because it
strange.
shifts this way a little bit.
But for other stuff out today, I just wanted to make sure that we covered that. There are a bunch of new Vita games that literally came out today.
Get outta here.
14th of March. Blue Collar Astronaut is a very odd-looking game that is like space parking. You do a lot of parking in space, but it's also like you have to like make enough money to pay off student loans.
Oh,
It's
I don't
kind
want
of
to play
the
that at
concept.
all.
It seems very silly. Serial M2 is old school monster catching RPG, and then Dying Reborn.
That's a very bad name. I don't like that name.
It is
we
a bad
watched
name.
the trailer for that. And
Yeah.
I actually am intrigued by it.
so isn't that also coming to VR? I think
Yeah,
I
I
think
believe
it
so.
is, and I feel like it's one of those things that probably that's its strong point.
Yeah,
but they
so
wanna
it's
just,
it's a horror escape room.
That sounds kind of cool.
Which like sounds awesome to me because Resident Evil 7 recently did that with DLC. And it was really cool.
the bad guy's a fish.
I don't know, but that's what really sold me on it.
The picture of the fish.
Yes, the
That's a
promo
weird
ad is a man. with a
marketing
fish
doesn't
head.
even work anymore. It's just broken. You millennials
it
are
was
too
great.
hard to target. You put a fish up there for the horror game, and
Well, it
was
died
impressed.
and now it's been reborn.
oh,
Dying reborn.
Wait. This is a Vita and a VR game?
Yes.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
feel
look
like this
great.
is either the most impressive video game ever, or the VR version is gonna make you vomit.
Well,
Well, it's got a fish on the cover, so
why not both?
Yeah.
Ooh, little column-naise. Yeah.
I don't know what you said, but let's
say
move on.
hollandaise.
Oh, a little
I don't know what he's
column-naise.
column
A little of the hollandaise.
And all those
Yeah,
stuff.
delicious.
saying. I don't know what he's
Like
saying
the
over
egg
here.
cream.
Yeah, that's not an egg cream.
Talk about
What's made of
Okay,
hollandaise?
we're talking
Hollandaise
about
is
cream
an egg-
sauces.
it's a
I'm
cream
getting
sauce you put
nauseous
on eggs.
talking about these things.
Is it?
Yeah,
But you put it on eggs?
yeah, hollandaise.
Oh, yeah,
So you
absolutely.
put egg sauce on eggs?
Yes.
yeah.
Ugh, that feels gross. I'd be putting like a fried egg on a fried chicken
It's like
sandwich.
a mustard yolk. What?
Yeah, I, know
I
what
would
it
do
is.
that.
No, that's gross.
Hollandaise not
That's
common.
like I don't like the idea of eating different forms of the same thing.
You're crazy. I'd take every animal, put them together in the same plate.
All right, Noah.
Well, I eat eggs with chicken all the time.
Oh, that's gross. I don't like that.
Every day.
That's weird.
I actually had that for lunch today. I'm with you on that. Like, I feel bad doing it, but it's also like, this
Never
is
even
like
thought
a
about it.
healthy combo, you know?
Yeah.
That's
A
like
lot of
eating
protein.
a child and its parent.
No, because eating either of those things on its own is bad. So doing it together is also still a crime, but one of those things is bad. Whereas a chicken and egg is that both those things are good. You have them together, it's still good. There's no crime.
What if a chicken eats an egg?
Stop it.
That would be bad.
Yeah, what if like a chicken
Stop
eats,
it with
I don't think it could do that.
I think a chicken could eat like
You'd have
if you
to
fed
like
a
trick
chicken
it. You'd have to like
scrambled eggs?
draw a picture of a worm on the egg.
You ever had halloumi?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's halloumi?
That's another thing that like
Illuminati?
is really common in Australia that's not like hollandaise. Halloumi is like just an excellent cheese.
Yeah, it's really good cheese.
Oh,
Big fan.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we derailed the PlayStation conversation. Sorry about the lack of structure. Anyway, big Sony anniversaries. 2 games are celebrating big birthdays. God of War 2 hitting those double digits. Kratos is turning the big 1-0, 10 years old.
That was God
and God of War, yeah. And then Journey's turning 5. So yeah, those are like the same game. Let's recognize the
Yeah, I mean, I
arbitrary
feel like
years.
Journey was a spiritual successor to God of War.
Yeah, absolutely. Similar combat.
Yeah. But let's just so God of War 2, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, that was like one of alongside Okami and Kingdom Hearts 2 was a swan song for the PS2.
Okami.
So again, in so I guess that would have been what, March 2007. Where were you guys?
I think I was running my own website about video games. I think that was really funny that those games were swan songs to the PS2.
Yeah.
Because at that point it was just kind of like, oh, you want a little more?
Yeah.
There's 4,000 games out for the system. You want a couple more? Sure.
Yeah.
There's God of War and Okami.
Well, it was also
Boom.
it was
yeah,
also,
we could do Zelda.
I mean, it was also
Sure.
like,
Love
hey,
Okami so much.
remember last fall you spent $500 on a launch PS4 or PS3 and you have nothing to play?
Yeah.
Oh, well, here's the 3 amazing games for that old console.
Yeah, it was insane. That felt really weird to like go from that to a game like Okami and to God of War. Yeah.
If you want to see how much IGN's changed, go check out the video Fran's Closet. Look that up.
That's so.
It's very weird.
That was our
thing.
God of War 2 exclusive preview.
That was a God of
There's
War 2
almost no
preview,
gameplay.
and it's got like a man's ass. It's very weird. It's a very strange video.
Man's ass. Yeah.
It's like a strange sort of erotic game show set in Fran's closet.
It's
I don't
so
know.
strange.
Yeah. So yeah, things change.
Where were you 10 years ago, Max?
I don't know. I was going to community college. Was it beginning in 2007? I don't know. Yeah, I was a school newspaper cartoonist and screwing around. I think I was actually. I think my best friend actually was playing God of War 2, but it was weird because he just arbitrarily bought a PlayStation 2. Like I think it was like someone was getting rid of it, and I go over to his house one day, and he's like, he didn't typically play a lot of games, but just one day he's just got like a stack of them in a PS2, and I was like, all right, where'd that come from? All right, fine.
I think a lot of people that didn't really play games really jumped onto that one because it was like, I don't know, we were hearing a lot. I think the trailers were awesome. We were hearing a lot about how cinematic it was. People
But it's totally a
use that
game you
word all
walk
the
by
time.
and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
you want to see what that is. Yeah, it was my end of my junior year of college, so I remember playing the hell out of that.
I was 13 and didn't have access to a console at the time. I played God of War 2, but I definitely didn't play it when it came out.
Is there an ESRB in Australia? Like EA team?
It's actually just one woman, and she's got an umbrella, and she goes around and just flaps it open at violent games and scares them off the shores.
That's
like a
classic
flock of
Australia.
seagulls.
Can she do that to the animals?
Yeah, we do have a rating system.
Okay.
I don't remember what it is actually.
Is it like
Have you
heavily
ever
enforced?
have you ever seen a picture of it? Have you ever seen that lineup of the Australian ratings board
Yeah, of course.
where it's like
It's on every game I've ever bought.
no, but I mean like the people in it.
Oh,
Like the people in it, because it is 8 of like the most angry looking old women and this one like weird like assistant librarian looking dude.
Well, the people who rate games in Australia are actually gamers.
Really?
So that might be the board that made.
I think it's the
I like those
approval. It's
casuals
like
over at the
They might be the people who wrote it.
Get dunked on, mobile gamers.
Well, they take applications for it, so you have to like say that you've played games and that you like games to be able to be part of our rating system.
These people look like they're very tired of games, and that's why they didn't allow that Mark Echo graffiti game to get released over there.
Also, it
Fallout
sounds like
3.
you have to like submit an application to be a snitch.
Yeah.
I don't
Kinda,
like that.
yeah.
I love
Good
games
job,
so much, I want to stop them from coming here. Yep, those veins are too big in that Saints Row bat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, not happening.
I'm so fascinated by the different rating systems in each country because I think it's like, first of all, here in America, we have the ESRB, which is different than the MPAA, which rates movies. And the average parent comes into a store and they're just like, yum,
For my child's gonna play this.
Yeah, exactly. So then just walk out with a violent ass game for the kids.
I want to meet that Peggy man who says that.
Peggy
him alive.
18.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same as the Resident Evil voice guy.
Peggy.
It's not true.
Peggy the evil.
Yeah, and the journey was 5 years ago.
That feels like yesterday.
That's crazy because I was here at IGN debating with people why that or Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1 should be our game of the year.
Yeah.
And Journey ended up winning.
Yeah.
I would have been happy with either of those things. But I think it's like, that's so nuts to think that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, and that was the year we held Judgment Day in the office where we had all the developers in at the end of the year. And it was Hotline Miami, FTL, Guild Wars 2, those two, Halo 4, Borderlands 2.
That's nuts. I cannot believe that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. ME3. Yeah, Mass Effect 3. That was the voice of our Lord and Savior, Sean Finnegan. Yeah. Man,
Crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But also that game like holds up and will probably hold up forever.
Yeah, I think so.
Like that game never needs to look better.
Yeah, no, that's. I was thinking about this playing Zelda. I know this is a PlayStation podcast. I'm sorry.
Fine,
We're
everyone's
playing
talking
this.
about
Yeah,
Zelda.
but yeah,
Podcast beyond Facebook group right now.
Everyone is talking about
entirely
Zelda.
games. It's a big game.
This is your fault.
Yeah. But no, I mean the fact that that's proof that you don't like graphics aren't everything. Art direction is about the same level. Like it's really up there. The fact that you can upscale certain games like Jet Set Radio or Wind Waker, and that's partially cell shading. That's also the kind of technology behind it.
Or pretty much everything in boost mode on PS4 now.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Or 16-bit stuff. It's just the fact that certain things just scale better, whereas other things where they're just like, if they're just assy textures trying way too hard to look, realistic in the time.
Totally the thing. Things that try to look realistic age much, much faster. And it's like almost taking a risk because people can't.
I think one of the games this generation that's going to age the best is going to be Persona 5.
Yeah.
So I look at that game and
So
like watching
stylish.
Andrew play 20 hours of it, and I'm like, oh, this game will never not look incredible.
Well, we've been hearing all these debates in the office, on the internet, everywhere. We've done it on the show about, Zelda versus Horizon. I think if you have the opportunity to play both, you absolutely should. But I'm more interested in what these games will look like 5 to 7 years from now. Like when we look at Horizon 5 years from now, right now it's one of the most beautiful, probably the most beautiful video game I've ever played, hands down. But in terms of Zelda is incredibly beautiful in its own way, just from an art direction perspective. I mean, those like 4K sunsets in Horizon are amazing.
Same applies to Uncharted 4, right? Like I remember so many times while I was playing through that I would just stop and stare at things. Like in 5 years, will I still do the same thing?
I don't know. Yeah,
No idea.
it's really interesting as an art form, and we've only really seen it in the last 20, 30 years in cinema when it comes to special effects and CG, where you can look at stuff like Jurassic Park and be like, that aged well. But everything before that was sort of like animatronics. I mean, Star Wars has CG, but like not really. It's like it was like dudes drawing lasers on plates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like I think there was one dude who did CG in Star Wars, and it was for like a countdown timer in the corner of one computer screen.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that
Whereas like the
stuff,
prequels are
so
entirely CG,
I mean, stuff that we think of as being early CG is just not the case. I think what's going to be really interesting is to see what mechanics age well and what don't.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you what was I
Like
thinking of?
playing original Assassin's Creed games now is supposed to be super, super hard,
Yeah.
which you wouldn't have even guessed, but it's just because of how much the climbing is.
Going
progressed.
back, I reviewed the Ezio collection and going back to AC2, which I loved. Like I love the Ezio, those 3 games. And go back to AC2, I'm like, oh man, say what you will about Assassin's Creed Unity and Syndicate, like they feel so much better to play. Like they have absolutely refined how it feels to control that game.
Yeah, and also just like weird little mission things like, oh, the man saw you, you lose.
Yeah.
You failed.
Yeah,
It's like,
whereas
that's not
now
fun.
it's sort of like, well, the man saw you, so now you have to adapt.
Yeah, you got to kill him with a knife.
Yeah, that's what happens. If a man sees you, do that.
But no, I mean, like thinking back to like early first person shooters, like playing GoldenEye, like going back to that is just like, what am I doing?
I mean,
my
even-
hands don't work.
Yeah, it's
Even
hard.
stuff like Metroid Prime just feels strange. Even like BioShock felt a little slow
God,
and
yeah.
cumbersome in many ways. And
Yeah.
you know, that game's 10 years old now. So
Yeah, like the zooming in by clicking the stick in. You're like, who did that? Why
Yeah.
would you? And that's like, you know, that's in Halo too, right? Like it's just.
well, like there are so many things that are like mainstays for us now that even when they switched where the run button should be, or the jump button in Zelda's in a different spot,
Yeah.
like it throws you off. Like I went from
You have to jump in Zelda.
yeah, it's weird, right? Like that's odd. Like I'm even going from playing my Switch to going to playing my PS4 and then backing out of menus or entering menus the wrong way.
Oh,
like
God, yeah.
that there's no universal language across all those things.
I am
like,
hopping between because I'm still not finished with Horizon, and then I'm like knee deep in Zelda, and so I'm hopping between the two, and I'm like, oh no, this is awful. Why
Those
am I doing
X
this?
buttons in
These
3
feel
different
so
places.
different. Yeah. That was like one fall I had to cover. I think it was back when I was still writing guides. It was Assassin's Creed Revelations, Arkham City, and Dark Souls 1 at the same time. And so it was these 3 third-person violence games.
That sounds terrible.
And each one had entirely. I'm like, what's the one I can jump in? I was like, not
Yeah.
Dark Souls, not Assassin. Okay, Batman's the one where I can jump.
Yeah.
I mean, just to sort of like end that, speaking of like really beautiful games, obviously Horizon's one of the most beautiful. A quick shout out to the Podcast Beyond Facebook group because they've been putting like just it's like that group has doubled, aside from being a place where people can discuss Zelda now, because that's what happens. It's doubled as this incredible art gallery for Horizon Zero
The
Dawn.
photo mode is great.
Where specifically, like, I killed hundreds of animals in that game. We'll talk about that in a second. But there are people taking like nature photography shots in that game that's just like this really zoomed in photo of a fox or a rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
And like I had no idea they looked that good, but they get the camera like right underneath like this smiling rabbit's little nose.
Yeah.
And
was
there's a
also-
sunset behind it. I'm like, this is incredible. So keep those coming.
Maybe that's how I need to play that game. Is just be like raccoon photographer in the distant
yeah.
future.
There's
can if you
raccoons
want.
and there's photography.
Horizon Snap.
There was also an update for No Man's Sky recently, and I've
Yeah.
seen the Sean Murray's Twitter account just been tweeting out beautiful photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous game.
Yeah.
it
Always
is.
was, yeah.
No, I mean, I think
despite
that,
everything.
like one thing I'd love to see more standard in the same way that we see like, oh, it's the QuickTime event or it's mantling or open world or whatever, like whatever mechanic it is. Like camera mode is awesome, and I wish so much that Zelda had like a camera mode that's just like, all right, the game's off now, just screw around, zoom in, adjust the depth of field, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think stuff like that should be sort of mandatory at this point.
It seems like Sony's pushing it really hard for first person stuff, so that's cool.
Well, they've got that gorgeous like new hardware they're trying to show off, and you know,
It's kind of like wonderfully just like sinister too, because they're like, the fans will do the marketing for us.
well, I'm like,
We don't need to issue screenshots. We'll let them do it. We're
I think I mentioned that.
crowdsourcing.
I think I mentioned that on the show where I was interviewing the head guys at Gorilla about Horizon, and they were saying like, yeah, we spent a long time like getting the perfect screenshots for Horizon, and then like we put the game out, and within like 24 hours, it was like, oh man, that guy got way better. Like let's hire him.
Yeah,
you know?
awesome. Yeah, that's so cool.
I would like totally go to an art gallery full of just gorgeous photo mode shots from
That'd
PS4
be awesome.
Pro games.
That's been one of the
Especially
cool
for racing games.
That's been one of the coolest things this generation. Yeah, seeing stuff in like Forza Horizons or Infamous or Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4.
I love Horizons because it lets you pop the character in and out, change the time of day. You can skew the camera like in a weird like angle. To
Yeah, you
Basically,
can almost
has
add
filters.
Yeah, add filters.
And that's all like in game too. Like imagine if somebody just starts screwing around in like Photoshop or Lightroom after the fact.
Yeah.
That would be
God,
nuts.
there used to be that. I don't even want to talk about it because I don't have the exact details, but there used to be this. He would play PC games, but he was pretty much a video game photographer.
Oh, yeah,
he would
yeah.
go inside the engine of games, and it would be, and he would like scale everything and like add colors, but he would make games that are like, he would make the original Enslaved, and he would take a picture of it, and you're like, this is the greatest looking video game of all time
Right,
because it's not real because he mucked with everything and nothing was moving, and so everything could be put into this one screenshot.
Yep.
and it looked so cool.
Or even games that are like
dead-end
you're used to
thrills.
playing like very top down, very close on. They'll move the camera to a different angle, pull it like 100 miles away, and you're like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gorgeous. You know,
I love that. Anyway, hopefully we'll see like a booth at PAX or something that's like a video game
awesome.
photo gallery.
Why don't we do that?
Awesome.
Why don't we just have a gallery?
We're busy.
so we used to
that.
do
I like
this. We used to do this series at the end of every year that I spearheaded for a while, and then I kind of passed the torch on, and I think we just forgot last year. Called the most beautiful moments of the year.
Yeah.
and we would basically put in like, fake ornate frames, really gorgeous shots from just very highly artistic games from throughout the year. And a lot of them were like, it would be even stuff like you'd throw a Call of Duty level in there because you'd be like, wow, this sunset in Call of Duty looks amazing. And then people would be like, that's Call of Duty. And I'm like, but it's good art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
And then-
who cares?
And then you'd have like one of the
An artist
silhouette
still made
levels
that.
from Donkey Kong
Yep.
Returns.
Yep.
Yeah.
The silhouette levels were gorgeous.
We
Like,
should do that this year with all user submitted.
I totally
Yeah.
agree with
That'd
that.
be cool as hell.
Yeah, and actually create like a digital gallery.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of crowdsourcing things, we ran out of stuff to talk about, so we went to you guys in the Podcast Beyond Facebook group, which is facebook.com/group/Podcast Beyond, and we got rapid fire questions, as they're called around these parts. James Dwyer says, "Why can nobody make a good Predator game? Concrete Jungle was by far the best."
Didn't like Alien vs Predator.
The first one was
great
good. The first one was good.
So actually, I was saying to Max
there was-
before, I like the pre-Alien vs. Predator movies, Alien vs. Predator games, because they were just like, they're more based on the comics and just a lot more raw and simplistic, you know? And they didn't have that garish logo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the thing with
It said Avapa.
Alien versus Predator stuff is there was a sweet spot. I think it was 2 that was the really good one.
Yeah.
But
Then it got real bad.
it's the same issue you have with superhero groups, where you're basically trying to balance different powers and different abilities. Concrete Jungle worked because it's just a Predator. It's just Predators on their own. I would love so much if we got a Predator game that was just a blatant ripoff of Shadow of Mordor or like Arkham City, where you're just creeping around, ripping out skulls, being a real jerk.
That'd be awesome.
I watched Predator this weekend for no reason beside it being Predator. That game or that movie is so full of like video game tropes and video game moments. It is ridiculous.
Yep.
It's kind of nuts how many things borrowed from. I mean, like from basically like smart vision to
Stealth.
Yeah, to stealth stuff to like crazy booby traps. Like, I mean, it's obviously things that existed, but in the same way that Raiders of the Lost Ark, you can see so many bits and pieces of that get used in platform.
Yeah, or
things.
Aliens.
Yeah.
I would actually love a Predator hunting game in the either like Horizon or Tomb Raider engines.
Yeah. I mean, Evolve was ostensibly a Predator.
Yeah, but it leans so much more into the multiplayer aspect. I think I just want, like, everyone loves Predator because of the second half of the movie when everyone's dead and Arnold Schwarzenegger's, spoilers, trying to kill the Predator. The first half is like, it's fun for the camaraderie side, but I think you can do that, kill off all the characters, and then just have this one-on-one, which I think they're going to try to do with that, what is it, the Friday the 13th game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that could get in that sort of, like, I love that.
Well, that's another one that could also work as a Mordor clone. Like just having, you've got this, it's how do you take a really overpowered character and make them fun to play as?
I think the honest answer to this question is that you have to have backing from the movie producer. Like you basically, a lot of games that are adapted from films are bad because it's someone just using the license to make money. They need to have a partnership. You need to have two creative directors working together to make something good, and that doesn't happen that often.
They're making a new Predator movie, so there's chances of this, like, maybe this will become back into the the sort of the public eye, and people.
There's also a chance of them being like, oh, we can make extra money off the game. Give someone the license, don't care about it. Like, they really need to take it seriously for it to work.
It's strange. I mean, the Alien license, Sega has that, I guess. I don't know where Predator lives. I don't know who has that. They're both under Fox, but they're
no
also
one knows
like
where
smaller.
Predator lives.
Yeah,
he's invisible.
Yeah, invisible.
Wally.
I would love it if
Did you say Wally?
I did. I got excited. I said Wally.
I honestly would love it if we got like a Predator game that just had the Nemesis system, but instead of it being like Uruk-hai and it's like like
dude, I would love it. Most
blood skull or whatever.
Most things should have a Predator. The Nemesis.
But I want it with like 80s dude bros. So like by the end of the game, you're fighting off against like some guy like buff nut hug or something, and he's just like, I don't turn a Predator, and you gotta like throw logs at him.
Kill the hillbilly.
I mean, I really like the Jack stuff in Resident Evil 7. The way he's stalking you, like do that, but in a jungle with a Predator.
Yeah, totally. Or in a more contained space. But I think it might have been you, Marty, who was saying this, in theory, could be the year that a bunch of games get announced with the Nemesis system. Someone figured out the amount of time that it would take from that first reveal of it to get it made. And apparently
in development,
this is the year.
this would be the E3 possibly where we get reveals. And obviously we just had Shadow of War, which has like Nemesis 2.0, which looks nuts because you're creating like little armies. But
I think a cool way to do this game is to sort of like, you have this person, he's in the jungle, he's trying to fight this one thing that's stalking him and killing him. But little by little, he's finding Predator tech. And sort of Metroid priming his way.
I don't want to play as a man in a Predator game.
what if we're the Predator?
You
I want
wanna
to be the
play as
Predator. Yeah, I want to be the Predator.
Oh man, I
want to be like this asshole in sandals jumping around on my fish
too
net.
easy.
I don't want that either. Yeah,
it's so easy.
Yeah. I want to be scared.
I want to unlock exciting new swear words by by eavesdropping.
Why do I always
which
forget the name of this?
Totally does.
There's that Sega game that was like Alien vs Predator vs Space Marines.
Yeah, that was like, I think it was 2. That was the second one.
Was that the?
play as all of them?
This came out like 2010.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that was like a kind of weird first person.
It was like an arcadey first person shooter. You could turn into an alien and run through the tunnels. But
is that the one that was multiplayer only?
Yeah, no, I think they had some
the
single player
multiplayer of
stuff.
Colonial Marines?
It was multiplayer mostly, you would call it, because the single player was like just clearly multiplayer maps. But yeah, I thought that did an okay job.
What if there was a mode where you had to catch them called To Catch the Predator?
You wanted to catch a
The trick is you set up a date, and then you say have a seat, and he has to sit there.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a cool joke from 2006. Stephen Fontana says, "What genre is lacking on PlayStation 4?"
Predator.
Yeah, the Predator genre.
Horde mode, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just talking about first-party games, because if you take in third-party, you have pretty much all genres. I don't think there's a really strong, pure shooting game. Like for either first person or
Seems like such a bizarre complaint to make.
yeah, but totally. But I just think like I mean,
totally get your
I think Uncharted is strong, not in spite of its shooting, but not because of its shooting. Like it's strong because of its characters and its world building, story, environment exploration. I don't think Killzone or The Order were necessarily good shooters.
I mean,
I feel like I'm an Order apologist. I really like that game.
Yeah,
I'm like
The
one of
second
the only
one's gonna
people
be
who's like, I
fine.
really liked
It's
Order
gonna be great.
1886.
yeah.
I think that was one of those things where they spent so long just like screwing with the
The same as Watch Dogs, right? It's like, oh, the second one's going to be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had Killzone for a while. We had Resistance for a while. It's just
Yeah, I mean PS4. We haven't had a Resistance game. We haven't. I'm fine because I would rather have them working on different things. I'd much rather have like an Infamous or a Ratchet and Clank or a Sunset Overdrive than Resistance, and I'd much rather have Horizon than Killzone.
If Guerrilla made another Killzone game that wasn't a third-person open-world dinosaur robot hunting game, I'd be like, nah, you guys screwed up. Just keep making those.
I think we're gonna be fine. I think we're gonna get a lot of those games.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think we need more couch co-op stuff. Like Overcooked is one of my favorite games. Snipper Clips is another one I'm playing now. It's just an absolute blast. We're the kind of thing where you can have a friend over, or your wife, or a couple of people at a party, and just like play a video game for people that not necessarily are casuals, but that aren't like hardcore gamers, that aren't like split screen multiplayer first person shooter people.
Yeah. Games where you don't necessarily have to be good at them or do well.
Which
you
they
have fun.
They have Little Big Planet, but I think that within 30 seconds whether or not you can connect with that, and a lot of people just don't.
Also, I mean, you hand somebody who doesn't play a lot of games a PS4 controller, and they're immediately going to be kind of scared off by it. And I think that's where the Switch definitely does grab more casual people, because you're like, oh, that's like that thing my brother had when I was 4 or whatever.
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, Gears and Halo, I played co-op split screen quite a bit, whereas most of the PS4 games that I played co-op, I've played in that I pass a controller.
Right.
Yeah. Play a single player game like Uncharted, Until Dawn,
Yeah.
where I will play it with someone, and we have an awesome experience because obviously PlayStation has so many story-rich things, but we're not often playing at the same time.
I would say puzzle, just because that's something that's kind of been relegated to mobile, and it's not something that Sony would want to put money behind, because it doesn't typically kind of demonstrate the power.
Yeah,
except The Witness.
I think The Witness is the only example that's
Yeah. And even that, if you look at it, it doesn't really read like it reads like a exploratory.
Sure,
it
it's
totally
not
is
a puzzle.
game,
A lot of times I think of puzzle as like, I'm going to relax after work.
Yeah.
It's a puzzle game. Whereas
I don't
like, The
feel
Witness,
that way about The Witness at
No,
all.
The Witness is anything but that.
That game's so mean.
Yeah.
It's weird because in the 80s and 90s, it was all about like first party puzzle games. And I don't think really anybody's doing. Nintendo does like,
Toad.
Dr. Luigi's Sick House. But nobody's like, Microsoft's not really knocking out puzzle games.
Absolutely
right?
not. Yeah.
Like, what did they have like on the 360?
Yeah, that Hexic
like
one.
Yeah, but where's I
Peggle.
mean, what is it? Luminous?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that game. It's on mobile.
Yeah,
is where it is.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. It sort of disappeared to
the place where
there.
you play games mostly without sound.
Right. Yeah. All right. So Brian Kravitz says, "Why won't the video game industry pay any goddamn respect to Batman Beyond? Rocksteady could easily make a Beyond game with a couple of changes. Plus, they keep adding him as skins to previous games like Arkham City or Injustice. But they make it the hardest skin to get. They know everybody wants it. I need answers." Brian's note: they made a Batman Beyond Return of the Joker game for PS1 and also Lego Batman Beyond Gotham, but that doesn't count.
I like the phrase, it's the hardest skin to get.
Those are my notes there. Lego Beyond, or Batman Beyond doesn't really count, but this sucks because it's like we look at that era, we look at the Batman the Animated Series era, mostly completely untapped in the films, in the in video games, in new TV shows of any kind. I mean, like the fact that we're getting Batman vs Superman and Gotham, the TV show, and like I don't know, maybe another Arkham game down the line. Like I think people are totally missing the best era that has happened in our generation, and that's the Beyond and Animated Series.
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of it is the fact that Beyond was so so closely tied to like Bruce Timm and like Kids WB, and it might be some weird thing like somebody signed a piece of paper somewhere that makes it so that they can't just go throwing that every which way. I know they are doing new comics of Batman Beyond. My worst fear is that Rocksteady got the license to a Batman Beyond game and they made something that was just garish and overly detailed and way too muscular, and basically, I mean, gave it that same like just beat you over the head with how muscular everyone is aesthetic that, you know, Arkham Knight has, when it would be so much cooler to see something just beautiful and clean and cell shaded. Like I want to see Rocksteady take the guts of their wonderfully designed games and you know, throw on a thing that makes it look like the animated series.
I would love a Batman animated series game.
I would guess this is just a property issue. It's like a don't screw with this era. We don't want you to touch it, and that's why there hasn't been a video game tie-in with Batman v Superman or Gotham or anything like that. And all of the Arkham series is effectively a unique series.
Right. I believe the last movie tie-in we got was a Dark Knight mobile game, which is like
also the fact that also the fact that Batman Beyond to a lot of people, like more casual Batman fans, isn't Batman. It's like this weird kind of like
sidestep.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I like Darth Vader. Well, here's Anakin Skywalker. You're like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Plenty of people love that, but
I think Brian's right here in that that we get those skins in the Arkham games, and it's just kind of like, it's such a tease.
I think it's them paying respect to something that they don't want to screw up, like really. And I mean, Batman is one of my favorite characters ever. I would love more Batman things, but I also like don't really want them to screw that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's also you get into like the accounting side of things, and there's some guy in a back room who's got a green visor on and a calculator, and he's like, "We ran the numbers. Nobody wants Batman Beyond."
That's not what
and we're like, hundreds of people do, and it's like, doesn't cover it.
That's not what accountants look like. No one talks like that.
Yeah, they do.
No, they're not.
I've seen the mask.
They don't talk like that, and they don't own fives.
You really know 3 accountants?
Yeah, weird. Yeah.
I don't buy that at all.
I do.
Okay. Mom's an accountant.
Well, if you did buy it, save the receipt, and his 3 friends can take a look, see if it's a write-off. Anyway, Mitchell Clay asks, what's your hope for the almost guaranteed Horizon Zero Dawn sequel?
Man,
I like we're the only one of us that's finished.
I would,
flying.
I would want it to exist like Far Cry, I think.
How so?
Contained experience in a similarly or a different world, but similar gameplay.
Like not necessarily Aloy.
Sequel, but I can't comment on that because I haven't finished the story.
Yeah, so this has nothing to do with even finishing the game or not, but I think that the way Sony positioned Aloy as their new sort of...
She's their Nathan Drake.
Yeah, she's their new Nathan Drake. And which they need, they need more characters like that. Like, it's funny when you go to PSX and you see,
some dude in a Ratchet suit.
There's a guy in a Ratchet suit and...
Sackboy.
Yeah.
A bunch of like 15-year-old characters.
But then you see Sackboy's weird friends with the dumpy asses.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, you guys ran out of mascots.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, they kind of have a thing, like
mascot.
Nathan Drake is hard to mascot because he looks like a dude,
Yeah.
Whereas Aloy, I think, is based on what she wears and her hair color, even just the design is a lot more distinct. Like, it's easy to be like, that guy's kind of dirty. Maybe it's Nathan Drake.
Like
maybe he's just dirty.
Maybe he just stopped halfway through tucking his shirt in.
Well, you can't. Nathan Drake looks like a model that had to change a tire. Like he's just like slightly greasy, and he's like, "Oh, I'm annoyed."
All of this is just tire root.
But Aloy's an
Tuck my shirt
entire.
in.
Yeah, Aloy's like a whole. Like she's not only a whole costume; she's a dozen different costumes that you can choose from in the game. So I think she's going to stick around no matter what. Not to dash your dreams there. But what I want to see is vehicles. Flying, like more stuff like that. I think that there was a lot of interaction with sort of creatures. Like we didn't really get a lot of like deep sea creatures or anything like that. Like I think just like
that seems
expanding the traversal to like going underwater, not necessarily being underwater, but seeing like a giant sea monster that's basically a robot. Seeing like a 90-foot pterodactyl and being like, I have a janky like wooden helicopter I made with my friends in this weird like homestead. We're gonna fly up there and fight this guy with laser beams. Like that stuff's awesome.
I think they almost shot themselves in the foot by being too comprehensive with the different environments.
Yeah.
Like the fact that
this game feels like part 2. Horizon Zero Dawn feels like a sequel.
Because it's so polished.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which we aren't used to. Like we always bring up stuff like Uncharted 1 or Assassin's Creed 1 where it's like, oh, this is a learning experience for the next time around. It's like, oh no, you just like came out of the gates with a 9.
We're not used to that. We're not used to seeing a brand new IP knock it completely out of the park like this. I mean, this game got amazing reviews across the board.
Yeah.
The audience loves it. It's selling really well.
It's 100% going to be in game of the year.
And I want that CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk game. What's it called?
Cyberpunk.
Isn't it? It has a year after it, right?
2077.
That's it. I want that. Like, where is that? Have we heard about it?
That's like 5 years off.
It's not 5 years off.
It's going to be released in
still making Witcher
2025.
Game.
Anyway, I think that, like I said, that there aren't enough. There are too many ecosystems and too many different types of climate in Horizon.
Right.
Like I think that coastal would be really cool to be like, oh, suddenly like, hey,
if you're at a beach, like
the ocean,
like, yeah,
that could be really cool. Just more water, but
I think
I
said before I see
City?
some form of multiplayer. Like I think the four of us being able to like go into like a hunting ground, and like have to simultaneously like take like Monster Hunter, like simultaneously take down a beast where it's like you're gonna handle like pegging it to the ground, you're gonna handle creating a perimeter, and then we're gonna go in and attack it. You know.
Or just even if they assigned AI to that, you know, having like here's your Final Fantasy squad.
Yeah, I want more combat techniques. I want the thing from like
better melee combat. I would like like
definitely
more like
better melee
interesting like combos and things and different weapons.
Yeah, it was really mostly just mashing on that button up there. I want a thing where you can project yourself as a hologram and a dinosaur thinks it's you and it goes to chase it.
That's a very specific want. I really like it though.
No, seriously. Like I don't know. I played a ton of that game.
More abilities, basically.
Yeah, more abilities. Yeah, more stuff like that.
Skills. Nick Ramratan asks Alanah, did you ever go to those touristy wildlife tours in Australia? Saw a documentary and I'm fascinated by the platypus and those little mice teddy bears thingies.
What?
I don't know. I didn't pick.
So my answer is no. There's this weird thing where when you live in a country, you take that country for granted. So there's so many places that I wish I had visited in Australia that I was always like, oh, I'll get there eventually, like Tasmania and Perth, that I just never went to because
Tasmania is a part of Australia?
Are you serious?
No, I thought it was its own country.
It's Tanzania.
Nope. It's actually part of the Looney Tuneverse.
It's a state.
I didn't know that. Also, don't look at me like it's
sorry.
serious. All right, let's do a list of American things you don't know.
It's like me being like, wait, Hawaii is a part of the U.S.?
Well,
hey, there's plenty of people who argue with you. You can't mail presents there. It's not the continental one.
Many rappers think the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
Little flatty?
But no, I mean, I went to zoos when I was a kid, but I never did any of that kind of stuff. But platypuses are adorable and awesome.
They're very cute.
I don't know.
Are they a little stinkers? They seem like they would stink real bad in the face.
Yeah, they stink a bit. Yeah.
What about what are these little mice teddy bears?
Mice teddy bears.
They're like little cuties?
I've seen those things.
What?
What are
they?
Marmosets?
No, they're like the size of mice, but they look more like little rabbit friends.
Are they just small rabbits? I think you're thinking, or like a zoomed out photo of a rabbit. I think this was like a perception.
Was this a Horizon Zero Dawn screenshot I saw?
This was a depth problem you had.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're referring to.
Okay.
Anyway, so nobody knows what animals those are. If you know what those animals are, I'm looking at the wrong camera all the time in the show. Just pay attention to where my eye line is. It's real weird. Anyway, if you know what kind of animals those are, you can send us an email. It's beyond@ign.com. And of course, the Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/podcastbeyond. We would like to extend just nice, positive feelings to our pals at Kind of Funny, including Colin Moriarty, who announced his departure from the group. He used to host this show. Just don't be to people on the internet. Just everybody. Just kind of Colin's going to do his own thing. Yeah, we wish him the best. And it turns into this big, stupid pissing contest for everybody. I'm like, that sucks.
We know, like, we wouldn't be here doing the show had Greg and Colin not put in 382 episodes of it.
And furthermore, we wouldn't be here doing the show if it wasn't for the audience who, A, allowed us to keep doing it, and B, tolerated us as we moved and fumbled and ate ham.
Yeah.
And
there was a ghost, there was a sheet.
And got to where we are now, where we're doing this amazing show where we couldn't name that animal back then.
Yeah. We really don't know what the animal is. You got to let us know.
Spoke about hollandaise for a while.
Oh, yeah, we did. What the hell is wrong with
days
us?
and days.
Why does anyone let any of us do any of this?
See, that was cool because I just like let you guys I was like, how long are they going to go for? Are they going to keep going?
I'll talk about a nice sauce.
I'll get a guy tweeting at me be like, there's not enough structure to the show. What did we write on this paper? It's all structure.
You have drawings of Totoro and his penis.
I drew Totoro with his penis hanging out, to be fair. Sorry, it's nothing but structure and erotic Studio Ghibli fan art, okay?
But that said, majority of the community is crazy lovely.
Yeah.
Like I think I've said this before, but I came here a year and a half ago almost, and the first episode I was on at Beyond was like my second week here, and everyone was so positive. I've never felt so welcome in a community so quickly. And it's totally to the credit of Colin and Greg and the entire Kind of Funny team that they built something that we've also like
Except
built
for
upon.
Kevin.
And
Sorry, Kevin.
Great.
No.
What's wrong with Kevin?
He's always rooting around on the drywall.
No,
they had to put down
producing.
tinfoil to keep him out of the crawl space.
He has to
I
be
heard
behind
about
the
that.
camera making it do things.
I want him and
Kevin's
Anthony
the dog,
Gallegos
right?
to get together.
Oh my God, I want him and Anthony to
Aren't
make
they
a
like
show.
doppelgangers?
Yeah.
I mean, they both have great hair. They're short. They're strange. Their bodies can be used as musical instruments. That's a great pairing right there. If you're looking for a new show, there it is.
All right. Anyway, that's the show that we did today.
Oh, speaking of musical instruments, so the old Beyond used to have a thing called Ryan's Wrap Up, which I think they started doing again on PS I Love You, where they ended the show with a song, and I got to work with a awesome rapper named Megaran. Quick shout out to him on a song called Safe Room. Him and I were both playing a ton of Resident Evil 7, and I know that game seems like 100 years ago, but
that game was rated PEGI 18.
It was Peggy 18.
Peggy.
That game was actually this year.
Yeah.
So I really like the Safe Room music in that game because it's just awesome. It's just like funky, twangy, rusty guitar sound. So I sampled it and I sent it to Megaran, turned it into a beat, and he rapped over it. So we will play that song for you now.
Nice.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
We have fun doing this. So thanks for sticking with us. And on that note, Beyond.
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 Yes, that one.
Say it. Thank you.
Still counts.
The end.
Wally.
Louisiana, sweltering heat. On a dark plantation is where we would meet. Sweat dripping, insects hissing. 3 whole years now, my wife's been missing. Mia, so beautiful and elegant, intelligent. A fatal fall, probably her benevolence. I told her you can't help everybody. Now the situation is straight ungodly. Peek through the kitchen and I'm almost sickened. Food in the pot still twitching. Now I got a decision to make. I want to break, but I can't. Feeling like I'm close to the end of the chase. I find a tape and I press play. I see Mia alive, so now I just pray. And she's saying she can't wait to explain. Me coming here might have been a mistake. Still a search for more clues. Remains of poor fools. Don't even want to imagine what they've gone through. Notes are laid out, signs that warn you. Walls are bored through, so far from normal. Bones are torn too, diseased and rotten. I want to turn back, but I can't afford to. I'm in a nightmare, can't take a nap. Creeping around trying to locate a map. Then I hear the sound of someone lurking. Could be Mia, but I'm so uncertain. Situation couldn't possibly worsen. Fate to be determined. I step into a room, facing uncertain doom. Playing this plantation, don't become my tomb. I cock the gun, wipe the sweat from my brow. I must slay you to get to the safe room.
You thought that you could slip away to run and hide, but you can't. And now look what you've done. That gun is not gonna work the way you think it will. You came to the wrong house.
We're a cannibal clan, can I offer you a snack? Jack Max will be the name, and I'm armed with an axe. You wanna be chivalrous, sorry Lancelot, cause me is in the basement and the door's still locked. And I'm always coming back, and I'm hella jealous when you try to be a surrogate dad to Evelyn. Here's another warning, you should really fear the damage I can do with these chainsaw shears. Oh dear, it's clear, consumed by the girl. Evelyn's the source of this petrifying world. I know earlier I was acting like a fool, shooting myself in the head like boom. But Ethan, I'm sorry, and I'll ask candidly, can you look the other way and help my family? Cause we're victims too, will you save us from this doom? Put this girl in a tomb before we all get consumed.
You thought that you could slip away to run and hide, but you can't. And now look what you've done. That gun is not gonna work the way you think it will. You came to the wrong house. You thought that you could slip away to run and hide, but you can't. And now look what you've done. That gun is not gonna work the way you think it will. You came to the wrong house.
Come back anytime.